Knock, knock. Who's there? Here's the laughter. Hey, folks, you are tuned in to KFUG 101.1 FM on your dial, kfugradio.org, streaming worldwide. I am Jacques Kepner, and welcome to Jacques Talks. Shout out to KZZH 96.7 in Eureka and Humboldt, which is carrying this show. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of my loyal, informed listeners. Well, some of you aren't too local. There's John and Patty. There's Kelly. There's Tim and Tracy. Those are all people. Oh, and then there's Dr. Sherry and Chris. All these people that are not so much local that are listening. And then thanks to all those people that have been so loyal to the show and been so nice and so giving me great constructive criticism on this show, which has helped a lot. I was just talking with today's guest. She's in the studio. We'll meet here in just a few minutes. But we were just talking about how this program has evolved over the past year and a half, how today I don't have the strict guidance of the notes that I used to take, and sitting there just following a real regimen. I just now kind of kick back. I've listened to a lot of Paul Kritz, the manager here, and he has such a kickback style. He even chews gum on the air. Oh my God forbid you chew gum on there. And he says, I'm just a badass gum chewing DJ. So those kind of things have helped me become a better broadcaster, better host here on Jacques Talks at 101.1 FM in beautiful Crescent City. It is Wednesday, August 21st. It's a sunny day. I'm looking out the studio. It's got some white reflecting sunlight on the side of that building and the red roof. So it is. I think it's a bit overcast. Yesterday was hot. I thought it was hot, one of the hotter days. I forgot to take the thing off the turtle cage. No, it's okay. They'll be fine. I have a plastic sheet that goes over the Turtletopia, where I keep 4 box turtles that have been my pets for many, many years. They're wonderful pets, indeed, and they'll just be a little warmer today than normal. They have a whole world there that they immerse themselves in. And thanks to that for Dr. Gigi, who built the Turtletopia, and my turtles are quite happy. All right. Today I got to talk about something that's close to my heart and dear to my heart, and that is writing. I got my degree in writing in English, I'm going to say, how long ago? What did I graduate? 1980 from Cal State University, Chico. It was a party time. And then I didn't do much with it all my life, but I became an auctioneer, and I learned how to talk fast. I guess you could relate that somehow to English. But I did get a degree, and I got a certificate in English as a second language, and that really helped me because a certificate just gave me the opportunity to teach English worldwide, and that was really cool when I was younger, and not so long ago I was teaching English in the Bay Area. But from cuneiform tablets to touch screens, the written word has been humanity's enduring legacy. We began, I suppose, by etching our story into clay and stone, preserving fleeting thoughts for eternity. And as we journeyed through time, we can see how writing evolved from the illuminated manuscripts, painstakingly crafted by monks, to the revolutionary printing press that democratized knowledge. Each era has brought its own innovations, its own voices crying out to be heard across the ages. Today we find ourselves in a new renaissance of the written word. Digital programs and platforms have transformed not just how we write, but how we think and how we communicate. The stream of this consciousness flows freely in blogs and social medias, where data-driven narratives shape our understanding of the world itself. Yet, amidst all this technological whirlwind, the essence of writing remains, I'm going to say, pretty much unchanged. It is still our tool to explore the human condition, to challenge our perspectives, and to connect with one another on the deepest of levels. Writers have been the chroniclers of our shared human experience. They have comforted us in our darkest hours, and they've celebrated our greatest triumphs. So today we have the privilege of speaking with Judy Howard, a local luminary whose words have resonated far beyond the shores of Crescent City, Brookings, and beyond. That's enough of my verbiage. Dear listeners, please welcome Judy Howard to Jacques Talks here on KFUG. Hey, Judy, so good to see and hear you.
Oh, well, thank you, Jacques.
All right.
What a cool commentary on writing. The thoughts that came to my mind because I'm passionate about writing, and I'm not somebody like Jacques has all this education. I have no degrees, and but you do. I don't know if you know this, Jacques, but do you know what the Native Americans' description of writing is? There's a description or definition of it.
Please tell me.
Words that are alive.
Words that are alive.
Yeah,
that's what they're writing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's their description of what writing means.
Living things.
Words that are alive.
I suppose I never thought about it.
Yeah.
People argue, a rock isn't alive, when some other people say, no, there's atoms and it's made of molecular structures.
Well, I mean, it comes alive, because we have our thoughts, we have our, ideas, but, and here's my favorite, because I've been using it for quite a while. It's called Writing is the Conscious Mind's Way of Tricking the Subconscious to Reveal its Secrets.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Okay.
I love it.
Yes.
I love quotes.
Yeah. Writing is the conscious mind's way of tricking the subconscious to reveal its secrets. And I don't know if you know this, but boy, I heard this quite a few years ago. I was writing a book and doing research and on the military. But the Navy SEALs, before they could retire from their profession, they were required to take a writing course. Reason being is because writing is healing, and just because of that quote, it reveals things that we don't even know that are bothering us.
Wow.
So this is why we journal. Why, So I've only just really. I'm gonna. You stop me if you want.
No, go ahead. I love subconscious mind.
It's only since I've moved to Brookings. I live now in Brookings for the last 3 years. Have I begun to realize? I was always. I was a dog groomer.
That was one of the life. Questions. What did you do before?
Yeah, right. So I was a dog groomer since I was 11 years old, and that was my career. And although 80% of the people have thought about writing a book, I was never one of them. I was just grooming my dogs. I had a busy shop down in Southern California, and life was good. And when my husband passed away, I also wanted to semi-retire from my business, so I took a creative writing class. And I did it not because I was thinking about writing a book, but just because I thought it would be fun. And she had us do a writing prompt, and the writing prompt was write about the color red for 10 minutes.
The color red. Okay, folks.
Yeah. Just it
a
was a
pen
writing
in your
prompt.
hand. Think about this after the show. Okay, so
write about the color red. Well, my attitude was, how in the world could you write for 10 minutes about the color red? But of course, I wanted to be a good student, so I put the pen to paper, and I was just amazed at what came out of my head, because I had this, it just kept coming out, and I didn't know I could do that. I mean, I was hooked. I was hooked on writing at that point.
Wow.
And I started going to this class, and I figured, and every week we would come and we'd bring copies for all the other students in the class, and then each one of us would read our work, and everybody else would critique it. And I said, well, if I'm going to come, I might as well write a book, because I'm not one to waste time. So right. I thought, I'll write a book. And so my very first book is called Coast to Coast with a Cat and a Ghost. And of course, I didn't have that title at the time, but I was writing about my husband had passed away, and I had driven across country after he had passed away in our motorhome to visit a friend. I lived in California, so I drove across the country to Florida to visit a friend for Thanksgiving. Anyway, I'd never really driven the motorhome before, and I had my cat, and it was an empowering journey.
Wow.
So anyway, I thought, all right, everybody thought it was so cool and such an inspiration that I was doing this. And the other thing that I did was, because all my friends worried about me traveling alone, I made a life-size doll to sit in the passenger seat. And my husband had
made a
life-size doll.
Doll?
Yeah, a doll, polyester doll. And I sewed it and made it into a doll. And my husband had been a Harley guy, so the doll had a Harley hat, Harley earring, bald head, and ponytail. And so when I decided to write this book, I thought, I'll write about that initial trip, traveling across country alone as a woman in her motorhome, overcoming the loss of her husband. And then that doll starts complaining every time I make a wrong turn or do something wrong. So it takes on the ghost of the dead husband. And and
Coast
the book,
to Coast with a cat and a ghost.
Yeah. And the book did really well. And that was at the beginning of self-publishing. I self-published. And the book did really well. And I'm thinking, wow, that's cool. And I'm hooked on writing now, because I guess I'm kind of a compulsive person.
Cool.
And I wanted to write more, but I didn't really. That Coast to Coast with a Cat and a Ghost was a memoir, and it dealt with my relationship with my husband when I was married.
Thinking back on it, would you have done anything different? Why I asked that is because when my late partner passed suddenly, tragically, 8 years ago, that's what I did. I just hit the road and I began traveling literally from coast to coast, back and forth, trying to figure out where I wanted to be, where I was, who I was. Yeah. I was trying to answer questions which I knew there might not be answers. Yeah. So was that kind of what you did? You just lost yourself in traveling?
Well, I think so. I mean, my intention was just to, I don't know, we had bought the motorhome 2 years ago. And then he got sick. My husband got sick, and so it sat there. But the first time I went in the motorhome, I just loved it. I loved the traveling, and I just couldn't wait to get out again. That's all I wanted to do. Again, I'm kind of compulsive. But then he got sick, and I couldn't. So at the beginning, like I said, it wasn't. The traveling itself was just, I wanted to go see places. I wanted to go do things. I'd been dog groomer, and I was free to do what I wanted. So, and as far as the book goes, my husband died in 2004, and I didn't publish this book until 2010. So, and I had a business, so I couldn't travel a lot. I would, had to be at my business. So, so for those 6 years before I wrote the book, I had traveled every chance I got. And I really,
Did your husband ever actually talk to you after he had passed?
Well, I've had dreams that were really real.
Yeah.
And so I believe he was with me in the motorhome. As I look back on this, I'm getting deeper. Yeah, I'm one that just goes. Yeah. My sister, she had a degree in all of this, and she lived in Encino, and she married to these nice people, and she always felt like, I always felt like I was the redneck sister to her. I was younger, and I didn't have any degrees, and so she always, anyway, she became helping me edit one of my books one time, and she was dying of cancer at the time, but she was helping me do this, and all of a sudden, she's realizing I'm a pretty good writer, and she came up and she said, are you ready to be? And this was like with my third book she was helping me with. And I'd already, my first book, I was going to be on Oprah. We all think that. We need to be famous. And anyway, she had come in and she said, are you ready to have a best-selling book? And I just smiled. I said, well, of course I am. But I knew she was impressed with the time. But I forget now, I got off the track. You asked me my intention on writing the book.
Yeah.
So this is 6 years after really my husband's gone when I'm writing this and published it. And when I wrote it, I had a good friend, and she says, well, good, you're writing about your marriage, because my husband had been abusive to me at one point. We were married for 25 years, and we worked that out, but there was a lot going on in our marriage to deal with, So she says, good, you're writing about your relationship with your husband. And I said, hey, I'm over that. He's been gone 6 years. I'm good, And the intention of the book was going to be that I was writing was going to be how everybody was inspired by me. And it was more like a how-to book of a woman traveling and how to pick a campground, how to do this, how to do that, how to set up the motorhome, break it down. It was really going to be more of a technical thing but that's what it was going to be in my intention. And since I've met an author once, and a lot of people ask authors, where do you get your ideas to write, And I never knew what to say, but this guy, he's a terrific writer. Louis Urea is his name. But he said sometimes God gives us the ideas.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that was it, because the book became so much more than just some little how-to, I did this and you do that. I mean, it became about our relationship.
The cat and the ghost. Is the cat still around? No, the cat's gone.
The cat, last 2 years ago now, he's been gone. And he published his last book before he passed away. I tell everybody he wrote part of it from the cloud.
What was the cat's name?
His name was Sportster, and he wrote 2 books.
Sportster?
Sportster, yes, because again,
Sportster.
When my husband passed away, it was all about Harley stuff. So he was little, and I thought, well, I'll just call him Sportster, because everything was to do with
Okay, so this is happening. You're traveling around the country. Your husband has passed. You're writing these books. You're percolating all these ideas, 6 years. What brings you out here to this wonderful little pocket of the world? Had you visited the Crest City, Brookings area before? Had you passed through this area and liked it?
Yeah, because I wanted to travel so much, I sold my grooming business and I started traveling full time in my motorhome. And so I had the 70-degree route that I would travel, and I would start down in Southern California because that's where I had a house.
Right.
And when I went full time, I rented the house out and then sold everything except what would fit in my motorhome. So anyway, but I had this. So I would come up when it got a little warm down south. I would start up the coast. And I would come up the coast, and usually I had seminars arranged across the country as I traveled, and I would do writing seminars. But so I'd come up the coast, and I stayed at Elks Lodges a lot, and so
you're an Elks Lodge, that's right.
Eureka, and I was always here, and so I've been here a few times, but I'm not one who's ever said, "Oh, I'd love to live at the coast." I mean, I love the coast. I was amazed by Oregon coast. There is nobody on the beaches, I'd lived my whole adult life in Southern California, and I've gone, where's all the people? You know, so I never had any intention of living here. In fact, it was a girlfriend who had moved here. And what motivated me really at the final thing was I was traveling around, and the more I traveled away from California, the more claustrophobic I got when I came back to California. It was just, I'd been out and seen so many beautiful country, I just didn't want to live in California. It's full of concrete. And then what I call the dark days hit, and I says, I'm out of here. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. So that's what brought me here. And my girlfriend had moved here, and she says, and I was trying to figure out where to go. I'd been to a lot of places, but she'd been here, and I thought, I don't have to worry about the fires or the smoke would blow the other way, east, and it was a small town, and they talked about the banana belt and the fact that it couldn't get any bigger because we got the national park and all this. So that was kind of basic reasons why I moved here.
When did we meet? About 4 years ago? How long have you been here now in this area?
I've been here 3 years, so it's probably 3 years ago.
I met you because when we met, we were wearing masks. The COVID masks.
Yeah. Well, you were maybe, but I wasn't. because I didn't
I
do
think
that.
we did. Oh, okay, maybe I remember going to those
I mean,
meetings.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm one of those.
You weren't a masker. That's why I remember you so well.
Yeah. So,
Because I remember some of those Al-Anon meetings I first met you in. Those were, we were all.
Well, I first met
Susie was there. Remember Susie?
Oh,
Susie.
yeah. And I met you first time at the farmer's market because I would go to the farmer's market and sell my books.
Okay, yes, that's right. I came up
books.
to you while you were in a little kiosk out there. What do you like best about our region? What's your very favorite thing? And Pat, what are the top two things that you now really like about this area?
Okay, well, it's all beautiful. That's a given. You know, the forests, the ocean, mountains, the rivers. That's all given. That's what I kind of base my decision on. But what I've come to realize is that there's just something really special here. I've talked to so many people that have moved here or passing through, and I'm talking mainly. I haven't really explored much in Crescent City, but Brookings is where I live, and anybody I talk to will say that this is it's a special place.
It's a vortex of good souls and resonating
and not just that.
Vibes.
There is that, but I met a guy at Harris Beach, and he was looking up this something, and I says, "You gonna hike up there?" And he says, "Yeah, one of these days." So I knew he lived there. I says, "Oh, you live here?" And he says, "Yeah, I just bought a place here." And he says, "I'd been in the Navy, a career in the Navy." And I says, "Well, what do you think of Brookings?" And he said, "You know, I've been to every coast in the world, every port in the world." And he says, "You know, every port would remind you of another port." And he says, "Except here in Brookings." And he said, "There's nothing like it."
Yeah, there really
and
is.
There's so many people that I've met with unique stories like that.
Yeah.
And you can't, and so many that you can't deny it anymore. There's something special. And what's happened for me,
yeah.
I've just been changing right and left, you know, the spiritual part of it is just blowing me away.
Right.
Because my writing has turned into more, I mean, I still write. I'll always write books, but I started a critique group, and I'm helping people write their stories. And that's like something I never imagined.
Now, the Brookings coastline, the 12 miles core to the Samuel Boardman, if you walk those trails up there, which I did extensively when I got here 3 years ago. I guess
it's the only thing to do.
4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool. And then, but Crescent City, too, if you go out to the airport here and drive south on Pebble Beach Drive, it's amazing. It's comparable, or in some ways, it's got more haystack rocks out there.
Yes.
They're phenomenal.
Just a few weeks ago, I drove the coast here. I was waiting to go do some appointment or something, but yeah. So I've really taken the time to look at it. I haven't walked down on the beaches, but yeah, this town is very quaint, and I loved it too. Yeah,
I think this
all
area,
the housing
this whole
and stuff.
interior, this whole area is just something very, very special. What do you wish our area had that it doesn't? I ask this to everybody. I wish I had, in a way, I wish we had a 1 hour commute to Medford if I needed to go to Medford in 1 hour.
Well, that would be nice. You got a 1 hour, hour it is to L.A. now.
Yeah, well, you could fly to L.A. out of the Crescent City Airport now.
Yeah,
advanced
so say maybe that someday will. I don't really have...
nothing you missed too much.
What I thought about that question, and now I've kind of forgotten. Maybe we'll come back to it, but because I don't care that there's not good hospital. I don't care about any of that because I just decided I don't worry too much about anything. You know, and when I was traveling, every place I loved didn't have medical. You know, it says you got to have medical. You're old, and
we're getting old now.
And so you know, I decided, you know what? I have never lived my life with, what if this happens? And why should I start doing it now just because I'm old? Right. You know? And so I said, I'm moving here. I don't care. And so
took the plunge.
There's none of that, the normal things that, I wish there were box stores here. I definitely don't want that. I'm glad it's as small as it is. I came from Southern California where hustle the money, that was all it was. And it's so laid back. So there's,
yeah, it is. Nothing. Again.
I would like to have a better writing community.
Yeah, that's true too.
And I'm intending
There's no Toastmasters here either.
You asked, what am I going to
Yeah.
see myself 2 to 5 years from now? Because I'm developing I don't know, I feel like I'm a big fish in a small pond.
Which is
in LA,
comforting sometimes,
down in
right?
California, you're a little fish in a big pond. But anyway, and what I'm doing now with this coaching and stuff, I just want to see a big writing community
Sure.
where people can learn about marketing. They can learn, but more. I'm just starting to really fall in love with people writing. And it doesn't have to be a memoir. What I've discovered, no matter what kind of story you write, the truth of your secrets and your subconscious comes out, because no matter what you write, it's always about you. You have nothing else to write about, because
true.
that's all you have.
Only
We
the
all
captains
just
of
have
our
our
own
perspective
ship,
on
yeah.
life, but it changes you. It changes you. So I would just like to see more awareness on that. I get a little frustrated with the college that they aren't more I don't know, ambitious. And I don't know. I never ran a college, so what do I know? But yeah. So I want to develop a community where the real importance of writing is first, when I started writing, I just was so passionate because I think everyone has a story to tell. Mainly people my age. Should I say how old I am?
Hey, you might, if you wish. I don't
Yeah,
care.
I'm 78. But back in the
Whoa.
day, it was
She looks
yeah.
50. Seriously, you look very young for your
So,
age.
but when I started writing, so that was like 14 years ago. So what was I then? 64.
Yeah.
I think I was 64 when I started writing. And my thing was, I'm doing these seminars, and I just love, talking about writing. And but I just loved helping people write their story. But it doesn't matter if it's a sci-fi or whatever. The truth of who you are will come out,
Right.
And that's why it is so hard to write. You talk about writer's block. It's because it's that ego and our secrets that keep us
We're gonna get to the
stuck.
writer's block in just a minute, but it's again, writing is a way of teaching the subconscious mind to reveal its secrets. Is that the quote?
The conscious mind teaching the subconscious.
The conscious. Oh, okay. Writing is the
its secrets, because the subconscious has all
mind's
that.
way of teaching the subconscious mind to reveal its secrets.
And just an example, when we're little and we're growing up,
Yeah.
and something happens that we don't know how to deal with, if it's violence or bad stuff, trauma in the home, or just anything that the child doesn't know how to deal with, you just push it aside and you bury it.
Yeah.
And you usually, people have forgotten that they were even molested, so that kind of thing. But when somebody starts writing, and the real, you can journal all you want, but in your mind, nobody's going to read that. You'll hide it, the journal, nobody will know. But the idea of writing a book because you can't trick the mind to say you're writing the book because you want somebody else to read it, not just your friends. So there's just more pressure on you when you write a book rather than.
Okay, we are here in the KFUG studio talking with Judy Howard, and she is an author of multiple books. We will get more to how you can find out about her books, so where you can get them, and we will talk more. We got another full half hour at this moment. I need to take a break. You're listening to KFUG 100.1 FM in Crescent City, California. We're also being carried by KZZH 96.7 in Eureka and Humboldt. Welcome, everybody. Regardless if you sing, you do have a voice, and that is with this community radio station. It's a great group of people that run KFUG. It's got good vibes, good shows. A lot of it is live, like this show. And hats off to the powers that be here at KFUG for giving me the opportunity to be on this show and Jacques Talks. I am Jacques Kepner. You can reach out to me by friending me on Facebook by going to JACQUES, like Jacques Cousteau, but the last name is Kepner, K-E-P as in Paul, N-E-R. Or I'm going to give you my phone number because some people can text me and say, hey, we've got a great guest. We'd love to be on your show, either myself or someone, and that can be on the show if they're contributing to this community that we live in. And if they represent a noble organization, project, please have them reach out to me. So friend me on Facebook or call 415-608-1063, the most horrible phone number of all time. But again, I'll say it, 415-608-1063. And you can text or call me and say, hey, I got a great person. Thanks again for listening. We are now going back to talk with Judy Howard, who was telling how she began her writing journey when her husband died in 2004, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that propelled you to travel. You had a travel motorhome, and your first book was called Coast to Coast with a Cat and a Ghost. We've covered some of those stories, and very interesting stories at that. Judy, you're wearing, number one, you don't look a day over 50. You always have your trademark cowboy hat on, right? Good-looking gal. And you have a black shirt on that says, I make stuff up. Right there, I'm looking at it right now. So it's a classic. You got to make stuff up unless you're research, what do they call it? Fictional, non-fictional, right? And if you're doing research, writing non-fiction, all your books are fictional, though, are they not?
Well, I have
based on
two non-fictions. I have a memoir and an autobiography. So
okay, and what is it? What does it take to start? You talked a little bit about getting involved with some classes where you.
I teach at the college.
Okay,
yeah.
You teach right now at SWAC.
Yeah,
Southwest?
one semester a year because I don't want to work too hard.
I did not know that. I did not know that you're a SWAC.
Yeah.
Dr. Gigi just got a position there too.
Pardon me?
Dr. Gigi just got a position there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're hiring her to teach anatomy at the college.
Cool.
All right, but when you started, did you have to constantly practice? Did you have to dedicate? What got you into the mode of writing? Was it just this inspiration that your husband's gone now? You have to refigure your life without him in your life that had been for many years. You got this motorhome, you're out on the road, all these things are happening to you. I know that personally, how many things happen to you, funky, bizarre, unusual.
Yeah.
Things happen to you on the road, and then how we react to that. Is that what it takes? Takes putting yourself out there, observational skills? Does it take practice and dedication? You tell us, kind of break down the components of what it does, what makes you write. Okay,
so like I said before, I never thought about writing a book. I just never thought about it until I took that class and I was writing that prompt and all of these things. It was like a foreign experience because I'm thinking, where were all these thoughts? They just fell out onto the paper about the color red. I didn't know there were so many things you could write about the color red. And I think what happened in that class, and so I was hooked at that point. But what happened with me, and I think everybody has this experience. They may not know it, but I realized that I had something to say. And all of these years, maybe there was some niggling discontent in me. I mean, when I was grooming dogs, I was good at my dog grooming. It was a good business and everything else. But I always thought, there ought to be something more than this. I mean, and it just didn't really satisfy. So all of a sudden, like I say, I'm compulsive, so I don't think everybody's like that. But the fact is, it started dawning on me that I had something to say, and I didn't even know I had something to say. But with most people, and then what I tell everybody, I said, every one of us, I think, if you've had somebody's always telling you should write a book.
Yeah.
You should write a book.
Yeah.
Or you think, I want to write a book about this, because you have something to say. And it's an inner voice that tells you that. And and what it happens to everybody that even thinks about that, it's happened to me. Why would anybody want to hear what I have to say? I mean, we are born with this guy, I call it, he sits on my shoulder and he says, what the hell are you talking about? You can't do that. Or what about, you got to work. I was working at the time, but I'm compulsive and I would get up 2 hours ahead of time. So because I was so obsessed with writing, and I would just write because all of a sudden I had something to say, and I was writing the story, and what the story ended up, that coast to coast story ended up being about my abusive husband, and the fact of, you know, giving honor to him even though he had been abusive, that we all have secrets that drive us to do what we do. So it was a deep book in the end. It was very inspirational and very empowering and all that stuff. So that's what happens when you write. And you can ask almost any author, I think, that will say how many times that book became something that you never intended it to be. And I'm trying to think of one of my books that...
how many books have you written altogether?
I'm working on number 9, so I have 8 published books. But there was a book about I had written a book called Masada's Marine, and Masada's Marine was my 3rd book. And after I'd read Coast to Coast, because it was just a fluke that I wrote this, and it did well, and I'm now obsessed with writing. So I thought, I wonder if I could make something up, you know, because this was a memoir, and anybody, I assume, could write their own story. I don't realize. I always say, if I'd known how hard writing was, I never would have started. But anyway, So then I wrote this cozy mystery, and it did well. And then I'm thinking so after I finished that one and it did pretty good, I think maybe I really am a writer. You know, maybe I'm an author. And I started taking myself seriously. So,
and when you say they were getting, so are these being published on like Amazon?
All my books are published on Amazon. I'm self-published. They're published on Amazon. They're available as print books, Kindle books. And the first 2, Coast to Coast with the Cat and Ghost and Going Home with the Cat and Ghost, was the cozy mystery. Both of those are also available as audiobooks. And,
wow.
So,
who did the recording? Just
Audible. Audible is one really popular. I think it's part of Amazon. Everything's a part of Amazon, it seems. But anyway, Audible, and you hire someone, a narrator. It's what I did. I mean, this friend of mine that has all these 13 books out, you know, he records his own, but anyway, I hired a narrator.
Does writing get easier as you've been going along? I mean, it seems like it become, well, just like this job as a radio host on a talk program like this. It's like I mentioned earlier, back in the early days of this show, I was too tight into my notes, and I had to follow everything. Now I'm totally kicked back, relaxed. Yeah. It's much easier to do these shows. Is it that way with writing?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it's ever easy. You know, I run this critique group in Brookings, and so I'll get all these new writers in, and I feel so sorry for them, you know, because I'm always nagging them, you know, to get rid of the wases and the passive verbs and different kinds of things, you know, and there's so much to learn. And like I say, I was lucky because I didn't know what it took to write well. And
it just came out good.
No, it didn't just happen.
Was it heavily edited?
Yeah. I mean, I do believe what I tell people in my seminars, if you are an avid reader, you can write a book, because something you mentioned in your commentary at the beginning was the reason we are so in love with writing, you know, and I cover it in some of my seminars, is because it follows our life. I mean, there's 3 acts in any story. Every story has a plot that's got usually 3 acts, and the rhythm of the story goes the same no matter what, which is the same in life. You know, you start out
beginning, middle,
naive about what's going on, and then boom, something knocks you out of your normal world and forces you, either because it's something you want really bad, it forces you out of your normal world, and through that experience you evolve, and your main character in any story, unless it's a dark story, evolves into, he can't achieve his goal unless he gets rid of all the lies that he believes. So that's why I think I have evolved so much, is because you have to know yourself a lot to be able to. If you're writing a memoir or you're writing any story, let's just say it's a mystery,
okay.
And so when a character does something he has to have a reason why he does that. The reader needs to know why he did that, or it won't make sense. And I remember having a girl in my critique group down south, and she'd been a teacher all her life, and she was writing this little fluffy romance of some sort. And she's writing this scene about this woman is married, and her husband does something awful. Maybe he cheated. I can't remember what the issue was. And so she finds out, and the scene goes, she just walks out and slams the door. And everybody in the critiquer says, well, I think she would have been a little milder than that. Her character, she wouldn't have just slammed the door. She would have said something, or whatever. And the fact is, we were asking her, make the character get angry is what we were all saying she should be doing. And she couldn't handle it. She couldn't. I mean, I saw in her, like, she couldn't get angry. Because she couldn't, as a person, couldn't get angry. It was, and I recognize it because I was always taught, if you get angry, you're out of possession of your soul.
We've got about 18 minutes. So
okay.
Tell me, how do you overcome writer's block? Or does
writer's block?
Is writer's block a real thing?
Yeah, and for a long time I thought I don't believe in writer's block because I would just writing. And lately, and maybe it was because after the dark days, but it definitely became an issue. But most of the time, I tell people, writer's block is usually there's something that I believe it's your subconscious, something that you just can't write about, or you don't know how to write about it. I believe it's always that, and I think every author in the world suffered from writer's block, if you want to call it that, during the dark days of the pandemic.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't tell you how many authors I know just stopped writing, and it was a thing. It was just a thing, and it was because we're lost. We don't know who we are. We're going through all these changes.
Wow.
And so I really believe it's a thing now.
Okay, now the opposite of that is bursts of creativity. So if you're not suffering from writer's block per se, and again, I don't dislike labeling things like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Do you have these huge bursts of creativity where literally it just flows out of you? Yeah,
you do. I mean, it's magic when it happens, and
it's magic when it happens,
and it takes on a life of its own. The story goes, so it does, and people ask about that too. Well, I can only write when I have this burst, and every good writer will say, basically, I get up every day. Every day I write.
6 a.m.
Yeah, 6 a.m. usually, and I'm at my desk, and I'll write for at least. When I'm in the groove, I'll want to write all day long. But if I'm not, and I don't feel creative, then I just sit there and do it anyway. I do it anyway. Or the other thing I would always do, I always said, if I'm not writing, I'm reading about writing. Yeah. And I study a lot. I believe, I've learned so much, and so that's what I would do when I would get stuck. I would just start reading blogs and stuff, about writing, right. And it just inspires me. I want to do that.
I used
or read
to be
a good
prodigious
book,
reader until my eyes went south, and it really changed. I didn't have it looked into initially, and I didn't. It was just bizarre. I stopped reading, a couple of books a week down to virtually nothing, and then that extended it, and finally now I've got corrective eyewear, but I've kind of lost that fluid. You need to read. I always felt I'd get inspired by reading good writing. There's a lot of bad writing out there too.
Yes,
but
there's just a lot of bad writing.
What we discern is right or wrong.
If you become a writer, it'll ruin you for reading, because I can't. It's on my goal every New Year's to read more. I read a lot, but I don't. I read a lot about psychology and how the mind works and everything like that.
I like that.
But as far as just a good book, it has to be really good before I do it.
Really good.
And otherwise I just don't take time for it. But my time is precious.
Can
to
you
me,
figure out a book in the first 10 pages? Because I cannot.
Or less.
Something will be something will just hit me like this isn't vibing with me.
Well, you know what's funny? One of the gals in my critique group, she's been there a year now, and she's writing her memoir, and she loves Stephen King. And she's somewhere around 6 months. She says, "Man," she says, "I don't know. I don't like him anymore." And she says, "Darn it," she says, and I pick up another book and so I'm the same way. You start reading like a writer, and you start seeing every time it could have been worded differently, or they failed at this point or that point. I mean, it does ruin you for that. But when I pick up when I really find a good book, I'm thrilled.
Okay, so remember how excited we were? We grew up, we're about the same age, where we grew up in the world where there were bookshops literally every other corner in the city down in L.A. and San Francisco, certainly.
Yeah.
There were bookshops everywhere. Those have faded away of like Kodak cameras. They're just not so prevalent anymore. So where are the trends going? Is it going more towards the Amazon? Is it going to the printed, both printed but Kindle? Is Kindle a big part of your sales?
Well, no. Only because I sell most of my books face to face. Seminars and farmers markets, and then
yes,
the average person who writes a book, not to discourage anybody, but they'll make $1,000 total lifetime out of that book if they're lucky.
Wow!
And it's not because the book isn't good, but it's just that most people. I just am a marketer. Again, they called me Miss Marketing down in California, it's not that I was getting rich over it,
right?
But it takes.
Yeah, you do market it. You get out there. That's how we met, right?
Well,
Market.
I mean, I got more T-shirts like this one. This one says I make stuff up. I have one that says I tell lies for a living. I write books. Characters, writers build characters, build character, and So I do, but.
Well, okay, so you have opposite of writer's block is these bursts of creativity, which are kind of few and far between for me these days. Although I will, when I'm most recent thing is Dr. Gigi loves my poetry. She wants me to write poems. So it's one thing just say, okay, I'm going to go write a poem now. I got to be inspired. I got to go listen to a song sometimes.
I love country music.
Or something, or read something that's exceptional, and then I will then be able to put pen to paper. It might be a pen to a napkin in the car, jot things down. Those kind of things happen, these bursts of creativeness. But do you, as a writer, are you pretty steady with your ideas and inspirations? I mean, are you always, like you say, you get up in the morning, you write every day?
I write. Yeah, I'm working on a book, so yes, I work on it every day.
You're writing
and there
on
are
your
times when I was stuck on it because I wasn't sure. It's about. I don't know whether I'm going to call it an autobiography or what, just a novel, but it's about my parents, and so. But there's times where you just get stuck. And you don't know what the next scene is. And I say, I don't know how to tell. A lot of times I tell my students, you have to trust the process and that it will come. And my cat that was he had written
Sportster.
Sportster. He was getting ill and I was in the process of writing his second book. And I knew he was getting, and I was going to have to write that he's dying, And it was hard because I loved that cat. So all I'm saying is emotions get in the way, and I rarely totally quit on a book. I don't start another one until one's done. So I will go for a walk on the beach, and I just trust it. But I start reading about writing, and that really helps. I write reading books about other cats, anything that'll trigger it. So I never quit. And I don't know how else to tell you, but because writing is hard.
It can be hard, and when it flows, it flows.
Yeah.
I've always brought that up. I say, man, it flows, and people say, isn't it cool when that happens?
Yeah.
But it happens infrequently. It's not like you can keep that open spigot going 24/7.
Well, I believe that if you write every day, because your brain develops habits and expects it's just like you go to bed at the same time every day. Yeah. You get up and you write, and it starts learning that it's expected of you. And I write, and I just do it. I can't tell you. And I'm in a writing critique group. I started this writing critique group just because I wanted help with my writing.
Okay, tell us about that. We've got about 10 minutes. Let's get down to some nitty-gritty about how people get a hold of you. So what is this critique group called, and where is it?
It's called the River Writers Critique Group. And
River Writers, okay. I'm referring to the Chetco and
yeah, because I was having it out of my house, and I live out on North Bank, Chetco, and at the time. But now I'm doing it somewhere else in town in Brookings. Right. But
how often does it meet? Where does it meet?
Right now we're meeting at the Seabird RV Park.
Okay.
And the best way is to email me or call me.
Okay. What is your email?
My email is jhoward1935@gmail.com.
Okay, so you can get a hold of Judy Howard by writing J Howard, HOWARD, Judy Howard, J Howard 1935@gmail.com.
Yes, and my phone number is,
if you wish to give it out, sure,
951 544
okay
3046.
That's 951
yeah
951 544 3046. Okay.
And my website is judyhowardpublishing.com.
Okay. And then you could also people could find you they could buy your books and stuff like that.
Yeah, the books are all on Amazon.
Under Judy Howard.
Yeah, so I have 8 books out, but you can go to Amazon and you can find them all.
What is it? What's the business side? So it's really changed, right? Has self-publishing... Oh, wait, I got to back it up. I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because this is what used to get me. Just before the pandemic, so we're talking about when I was traveling in the United States back and forth, I would spend a lot of my winters in South Carolina on the Sea Islands, and we'd be there, and there would just be these retirement... I lived on a retirement resort place, right, on the island. And we would go to parties... regularly, cocktail parties all the time, and go outside. And guess what? Everybody was writing a book. Everybody was writing a book. And I remember talking to this one guy. I go, "Hey, what are you doing?" I go, "I'm writing a book." I go, "Really? What did you do? What's it about?" About me? Well, really, what did you do in your life? I was an accountant for 45 years in Boston.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what did you do?" "Oh, I was an accountant. I'm just talking about my days being an accountant in Boston." I was asleep by the time the guy finished talking to me. Everybody was writing their book. Then you say the wind got blown out of the sails with COVID. So that stopped people from writing?
I don't think so. The idea, 80% of the people have thought about writing a book.
80% of the people have thought about it.
40% maybe actually start a book. 20% of those people, half of those 40%, don't ever finish the book. And the other 10% will finish it, but never publish it.
Okay, so here we go. So
you get down to about a 5 or 10%.
What are some of the stats? What does it cost to publish a book now? I mean, if you go by Amazon, do you just follow Amazon's guidelines? Is there a percentage they take? What do they charge?
There's the website, Amazon's website is called KDPpublishing.com.
KDP, okay.
And that stands for Kindle Direct Publishing.
Okay.
And you go to that website, and it has all the information of how to do the formatting, how to do the cover, and you can upload your picture and do all of this stuff. I mean, all of the self-publishing can actually be done. Maybe you'd buy the ESPN number, which is maybe $100. And if you do all the work yourself, it doesn't cost you a lot. But these days, for me especially, the technical part of that,
the
formatting
part,
and
the formatting,
and getting all of that, and Amazon has gotten really, really picky, before, and self-publishing got a bad name because people would just throw this manuscript out and they didn't care. And now Amazon, if you've got too many mistakes, they'll send it back and they won't let you upload it.
Wow.
So they're just another big publisher, in my opinion. But I mean, that's important. I'm glad they're demanding some quality.
Right.
But so I hire mine done. I hire someone to format it. I hire somebody to go through even though I'm in a critique group, and usually if you're in a critique group, your manuscript comes back pretty clean by the time you're at the end of it, because you got 5 to 10 people reading and catching all the mistakes and everything. So there's that. But you could, like I say, if you do all the technical work yourself, you could get by probably for around less than $500 to publish a book.
Wow.
I mean, because once it's uploaded, that's it. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
$500, thousands, could cost thousands. And then you get, how many books do you get with it? Do you get like 10 books, 100 books?
Well, all you do, you upload it to Amazon, okay? So now it's on Amazon, and they say, hey, my book's out there. Go to Amazon, find Coast to Coast with the Cat and the Ghost. People download it, and you set the price of the book, and it has to be enough to cover Amazon's printing costs. So there's that. But basically, you set the price of the book.
Right. And
so somebody says, oh, I want that book. They download or whatever, you upload it, however you get the book off Amazon and pay Amazon, and then you get a royalty from that.
Okay, so we've got a couple minutes.
Yeah.
You can be reached by jhoward1935@gmail.com. Your phone number is 951-544-3046. You can find out more about what Amazon does by going to kdpamazon.com. What was that?
kdbpublishing.com.
KDB or P?
K as in kite, D as in dog, P as in
P as in
Pete.
Paul. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
publishing.
Okay, so kdppublishing.com. She also is the sponsor and runs a writing workshop called the River Writers.
Mm-hmm. River Writers Critique Group.
Okay, critique. How many people are in that group?
We have 5 right now, and I probably would start a new one because, if so,
it's up in the Brookings area.
There'd be a waiting list, maybe.
All are welcome as long as you just got the drive and the commitment to be a writer and start writing.
Yeah,
and
you have to bring 4 to 5 double spaced
notebooks,
pages.
Okay. I see.
Pages and copies for the other writers. So that's the cost in it for you.
Group? How much does
There's
it cost?
no charge for it.
No charge for this group. Okay, folks.
So and it's and I've just recently haven't even started promoting it yet, but I will be doing coaching $50 an hour because so many people come to me and say, I've got this book already written. But I know the book and I just don't know where to get started and how to do this. And so just sit down for an hour for $50 will kind of give you a good idea of what you want to do and how you want to do it and everything else and how a book has to go.
Where do you see yourself in a couple of years quickly?
Couple of years. I intend to be doing a lot of more motivating of people as far as writing their stories or whatever it is they want to do, because the people are we're in such a funk these days, and it scares me. So I want to help them out of it.
What's your tombstone going to say, Judy?
I'm sorry?
What is your tombstone going to say? I ask all the guests. What is your tombstone? What do you think?
My tombstone. Oh my God, I forgot to figure that out.
Vern Monet said, "What happened?" That was it. That's all. What happened? Why is it dark?
I used to travel. I've seen some cool ones. What was it? The one that says, "I told you I was sick."
I told you I was sick.